Hello, and welcome to LSET Tech Bytes. In this video, we're going to build a blob generator app using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Let's start by breaking down the HTML code. First, we have the HTML5 document type declaration at the beginning, which sets the document type and language. Next, in the head section, we have a viewport meta tag that controls how the layout looks on different devices. Title tags set the title of a web page, which is Blob Maker in this case. Moving on to the body of the HTML, we have a container div that wraps the entire content. Inside the container, there are several nested div elements with classes like output, dimensions, sliders, and box. These are likely used for structuring and styling the different sections of the app. Within the dimensions div, we have two input fields for height and width labeled with height and width respectively. The default values for these inputs are both set to 200. Following that, we have a sliders div which contains 4 input elements of type range. These are likely meant for adjusting some parameters of the blob shape using sliders. Lastly, there's an input field with the ID CSS code set to read only and a copy button wrapped in a box div. These elements may be used to display and copy the CSS code for the generated blob. Now let's move on to the design part. We're going to delve into the cascading style sheets, CSS, that brings our blob generator app to life. Let's break down the CSS code and understand how each part contributes to the design of the app. Starting with the universal selector, we're setting padding, margin, and box sizing to create a consistent layout across all elements. The font family times New Roman is applied to all elements with a default font weight of 400 and color of 2A2A2A. Next, we set the background color of the entire page with the body selector. Then, within the container class, we define the styling for our app's main container, including its size, positioning, padding, and border radius. The output class contains the styling for the area where the generated blob will be displayed. It has a specific height and width, background color, padding, and a grid layout to center the blob. The blob selector is used to style the actual blob element. Here, we set its height, width, background gradient, and box shadow to give it a dynamic and appealing appearance. Moving on to the dimensions class, we use flexbox to lay out the height and width input fields evenly with some spacing. The sliders class is defined for styling the input range elements that are likely used to adjust parameters of the blob shape. It uses flexbox and gap properties to align the sliders vertically and with adequate spacing. The box class styles the box containing the CSS code input field and the copy button. It's structured using flexbox and margins for centering and spacing. Lastly, we have styles for input type range to customize the sliders, including appearance, track, thumb, and other visual properties. This CSS code, when combined with the previously discussed HTML structure and the upcoming JavaScript, will result in a fully functional blob generator app. Now let's move on to the JavaScript part to bring interactivity to our app. We will delve into the JavaScript code that provides the functionality for creating and customizing the blob shape. Let's break down the JavaScript code and understand how each part contributes to the interactivity of the app. First, we have the declaration for the output code variable, which stores the reference to the element with the ID CSS code in the HTML document. This element is where the generated CSS code for the blob will be displayed. Next, we select all input elements of type range and number and attach event listeners to them. When the values of these inputs change, the create blob function is called. The create blob function calculates the values of the sliders and input fields and uses them to determine the border radius and size of the blob. It then updates the CSS properties of the blob element and displays the generated border radius code in the output area. Additionally, an event listener is attached to the copy button, so when it's clicked, the content of the output area is selected, copied to the clipboard, and an alert is shown telling the user that the code has been copied. Overall, this JavaScript code enables the user to interact with the app by adjusting the blob's shape and size, and then easily copying the generated CSS code. When combined with the previously discussed HTML and CSS structure, this JavaScript functionality completes the blob generator app.
That's it in this video. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to LSET for more updates.